Hey folks, it's Ben. We're back with this lovely, awesome little Gilson tiller. You saw me work on the coil start and get that going again, and it has been running great. However, the engine itself hasn't been. Seems like it's having some sort of carburetor issue. So what we're going to do is take it off, and that requires me to disconnect essentially three things. The actual carburetor from the block, the head, this little cable here, and this little spring here that attach to the governor, and we'll take that and bring it up on the bench. Part of my operating issue is the governor assembly here. As you can see, it's a fan governor, right? So this thing swings in the breeze provided by the flywheel here and the fan. We've got a rod that comes back to the throttle, so that indicates how hard or fast it runs. And then we have the throttle mechanism here connected to a spring. Now this rod had gone through this, which kind of limits its travel and things like that, but it's really bound up, and that's clearly not right either. It's supposed to be relatively free so that it can keep its, RPM, and I'm thinking that it was supposed to be kind of tight, and you would set this to wherever it needs to be, and then of course it battles the wind and it runs the throttle. As the wind dies down, it opens the throttle and keeps it going. So I have a feeling we have an issue with this here. Of course, we've got to take it all apart anyway. The carburetor probably needs a cleaning anyway, but when we put it back together, this will be the main focus of where we need to figure out, okay, this is what needs to be repaired and this what isn't. So I just wanted to kind of highlight this is a lot of issues here. This rod could be too bent. Like I said, it was in this rod here like this, if you look on the other video, which doesn't give that machine a lot of leeway in terms of operating. Okay, so here we have the carburetor assembly, and to get it apart essentially here's the fuel tank that's right here. And it's got a gasket, so we'll clean that up too. And that needs to seal, right? Because it's the vacuum of the pump that actually, the motor that pulls it up here. A note to you, this is an octagon. And you've got to just kind of, it has to come in and out at an angle. It's a hair bigger than the tank, right? So you got to have to pop it in at an angle. So try not to have this thing full of gas, right? You want it to not be full of gas. And then this is, I should put these back in the tank. It's only held on with 2 screws, which usually I think there are 3, and there's always 2 that are easy to get to and a third that's a pain. But you can tell the carburetor is quite dirty anyway. Oops, I guess I should have put these on while I place the gasket here. And like I say, we're gonna clean all this anyway, but just so I don't lose parts. And my springs and my governor fan are over here. I ended up there's a little tab you bend on the fan to get it off, and that gets the linkages off. So we have our carburetor here. Now, one of the issues that I had discovered that was being a problem was these are the 2 bolts that hold it to the head. No matter where I put this, it was very temperamental. And typically these needle screws, you can screw them all the way in and then back them off about 1.5, I believe. And that gets you to where you need to be. And this thing was not. It was way out. So if you were to buy a rebuild kit for a carburetor, whatever one you particularly have, traditionally it just comes with the new needle valve. So in this case, we're just going to back it all the way out and take it out. And you'll see if it comes, boom, it's really crusty through there too. But here's the essentially metering valve. So fuel will come up this pipe through this little orifice here and through the throttle mechanism, and voila, you're on your way. So parts that get dirty are obviously the intake, which we're going to spray. This is plastic, so I'm not gonna push it anywhere hard. I'm just gonna, we're gonna spray it from here, spray into here, spray this mechanism here. Here's our choke, which is really sticky. Oops. There's the gasket for the for the block. It's really sticky. That's not good either. That means I've got varnish or something going on that's not great in here. Because there's the intake for it. It's open and pulled to choke, which actually closes quite a bit of air off. Maybe a little bit comes in through this hole, maybe it doesn't. But it's really sticky, and I'm not sure how to get that out. I'm sure it has something to do with the pin here. But like I say, I'm more cleaning than actually just rebuilding it. I think cleaning will get us where we need to go. So with that being said, I'm going to take my nice container here. We're going to spray it down with a little bit of carburetor or actually a little engine wash, get this cleaned up a little bit, and then we'll start spraying the internals and see if we can get them clean. All right, so we're back down on the actual motor here again. And we've got our 2 screws. I already put them on the head here. Got this really thick gasket. I mean, it's really thick. And it wants to point down. I guess it wants to point like this. And then we have our carburetor that comes in like this. And I try not to touch everything with my grubby fingers here. And then we'll drop a screw in through the hole. Push that into the block. And use my screwdriver to screw that right back in. And this is the easy screw to get to because you can just kind of reach it from the top. Got that one started, start the other one. This one you kind of have to, that's why you have to remove the tank. You kind of have to get it this way, right under the carburetor if you're going to finally tighten it. I got these fairly tight. This is fairly rubbery, so that's good news. The next thing we've got is the fuel tank. So we'll get this up out of the way. I'm going to tighten this a hair. It might make it a little bit stiffer. Behave a little better, and that'll be part of our final adjustment, I think, is the proper tension on that piece there. All right, next the fuel tank. And of course we switch from flathead to Phillips here. It's interesting that this entire fuel load is just held on with these 2 little screws and the tension they create against this plate right here. We'll also seat these nice and firm so that we'll squish out any possible leak areas. Yes, I could take this off while I'm fiddling around here. And this is just a cover that allows the air filter to kind of squish against it. I guess I could have taken it off at the bench, but I like to live dangerously, and I'm gone over the lazy part already. And this operates a little stiffer, but okay. So we're back to where we were essentially in terms of where we started. So we didn't really do a whole heck of a lot. Here's our throttle, and here's our mechanism. So let's go ahead and hook the throttle back up to the governor spring, and I'll show you the spring, this little thing I bent over here. Now, it's a cool little windage plate. It has a Briggs & Stratton logo right on it. We'll click it into through here and here. There it goes like that. So now it's free to, let's get this out of the way, swing nicely. It would rather be dry and clear than actually have lubricant on it, because the thing with lubricant is actually, after a period of time, will stop working, right? So being dry and clear is always a good sign. I'm not quite sure what to do with this, except it kind of sets our throttle, but what I actually should have done before I put this on was hook it on to the throttle position on the carb and then placed it on. And now what we're going to do is take a set of pliers and just bend that. We'll use wire cutters that'll do the same. Just kind of come in, bend this notch right here, and that will keep this from falling off, and that's all you need it to do. I can just sit here and swing back and forth pretty happily. And now you can see the direct correlation between as it moves the fan. So as this guy's spinning, the faster it goes, the harder it pushes, the more it closes the throttle, or something like. And as it slows down, the spring force, or the spring that's dangling here, will pull it towards it and open the throttle and make it go faster. So in theory, once you got a set RPM, you just set the RPM and away it goes. So I know for sure the spring was originally hooked on to this right here, so we're going to do that again. Ideally, I'd go on the internet and find out exactly where or how that's hooked up, but I'm just going to roll with intuition at the moment. So yeah, it goes about there. We should be able to tighten this screw enough that it actually stiffens this whole mechanism. And because if you had a throttle to operate it, like a hand control up on the machine here, it would pull on this exactly. So if you wanted low idle, you'd pull, oops, that's really too tight. You'd pull on it, it would speed it up or slow it down depending on which way you went. This is being essentially a set it, forget it type machine. With some tinkering, I firmed up the throttle control significantly, so it's very hard to move. In fact, right now it's kind of frozen, but that's okay. You loosened up a little bit. But as you pull more on the spring, it pulls more on the air dam. So as the resistance to push it is greater. So essentially, you're turning up the throttle. It needs to blow harder to close the throttle, and then when you release it down, it lets go. So typically, the wind will close it easier, and thus it'll close, your throttle down. So that should be fairly good to go. And this rod now is mostly free to move on its own. So this little magnet guy can do what it needs to do to work, I'm hoping. I should tweak that a little bit. So I'll put the recoil starter back on. This unit has never had issues running. It's pretty awesome, so I'm not overly concerned about that. It's just a matter of, I think, getting the feedback mechanism on the governor correct, and I think we'll be good to go. This will just let this blow kind of independently. It's a neat little hookup. I wish I had a stock picture. Once again, I might look up on the internet. Maybe I've got it all wrong. We'll see how we do right now. So with that, I'll throw the cover back on it, and we'll give it a couple pulls. Okay, I'm going to keep it on the close shot just because you can see me tweak it if I have to. Got my screwdriver here. Of course, this is nice because it has the spark plug off on top here, but I'll pull full choke, give it a couple pulls, see what it says. Does it say hello, or it's gonna shoot exhaust right at me. That is so much better than where it was before. You can tweak it with throttle. I didn't even have to adjust the screw. 1.5 was just right. I'm not going to mess with it too much because it seems to be running fine. It smells like it's running fine. And what we'll have to do, and I won't have it for this video, well, maybe I will, I'll trot it out there. We'll see if we can do a load test and see as it gets load, will it adjust its idle. So let's head on out there. All right, so let's see if we can run it, put load on it, and see if it can maintain its RPM level. Okay, so let's start it up and see if we can get it to put some load on it, see if it maintains its same RPM. that was great. So it ran at idle, we put load on it, and it didn't really change its idle at all. It just kept running, so that's exactly what I wanted. So I think it was more of a governor issue, but we did clean the carburetor anyway. If you have any questions on this thing, why is it giving me so much crap? It's a dump pick unit, right? So of course it's going to give you crap. Comments, suggestions, please leave them in the comments, and subscribe to Turbo 231 for more awesome stuff. And if you want to know more about the garden we're working in, subscribe to Red Barn Homestead. Thanks guys, have a good day.